There are moments when time itself seems to quicken, when the days carry a weight heavier than those before. A clock is ticking, not of men, not of governments, but of something far greater, the clock of destiny. And as it ticks towards September 06, 2025, the sound grows louder, pressing, undeniable. The days ahead are not ordinary. They are appointed, they are marked. Nations rise and fall not by chance, but by decree. Powers are lifted, and powers are removed. But in every shift there comes a moment of reckoning, a line in the sand where choices are revealed and consequences are sealed. What is unfolding now is not simply political, not simply economic, it is spiritual. The very foundations are being tested. September 06 does not appear on the calendar as a date of coincidence. It bears the shadow of warning and the light of revelation. What happens before that day will determine what follows after. A curtain is about to be pulled back. And when it is, the illusion of permanence will shatter. Thrones will shake, voices will fall silent, and that which was hidden will come into the open. But this is not a call to fear, it is a call to awaken, a call to look not at the chaos of men, but at the one who holds the turning of the ages in his hands. Every shaking, every removal, every unveiling points back to this truth, that kingdoms are temporary, but the eternal remains. So before that day comes, each one must ask, where do I stand? What foundation have I built upon? Because when the ground quakes, only that which is anchored beyond the shaking will endure. The urgency is not in the date itself, but in the choice it demands, a choice of whom you will follow, whom you will trust, and whom you will serve. The time is short, the hour is late, the warning is clear. Before September 06, 2025 arrives, prepare not only your plans, but your heart. For when the day breaks, it will not wait. There are moments in history that do not pass as the others. There are days that carry with them the pulse of eternity. They come suddenly, without announcement from the mouths of men, but with the whispers of heaven resounding beneath the surface of events. They come like a storm that gathers in the distance, unnoticed by the multitudes, but known by those who are awake. And so it is now, as time hastens toward September 06, 2025. To the eye that sees only in the natural, it will appear as another day, another number on the turning of the calendar. Yet in the unseen, it is not as other days. It is appointed. It is set apart. It is marked as a point where lines will cross, where the visible and the invisible will converge, where the powers that seemed immovable will be shaken, and where what has been hidden will be brought into the open. The world has always turned upon pivots, moments where the axis shifts and everything that follows is altered. September 06, 2025 stands as such a pivot. The foundations of thrones are trembling even now. Men who seemed secure in their power are standing on sand that is beginning to collapse. The mighty who believed themselves untouchable are finding the ground beneath them unsteady. And yet it is not the power of men that brings this to pass, but something beyond them. It is the decree of heaven, the movement of the unseen hand that removes and establishes, that raises and brings low. What is a prophetic turning point? It is the moment when the hidden reaches its time to be revealed. It is the hour when the stage is set for the unveiling, when secrets long buried rise to the surface, when the masks of power are torn away, and when the truth cannot be silenced. For years, the hidden has remained hidden. The corridors of power have concealed the plots of men, the plans made in darkness. But no darkness can stand forever against the light, and when the appointed moment comes, the veil is pulled back. So September 06, 2025 looms as the threshold. It is not simply the end of a day, but the end of a chapter. And as that day approaches, the signs are multiplying. The world is not as it was even a few years ago. The old certainties are gone. The stability once assumed is no longer. Nations tremble with unrest, economies quake, governments falter, and the hearts of men grow weary. But beneath it all is the sound of something greater, the sound of an approaching shift, the sound of destiny drawing near. History tells us that every empire, every throne, every dominion, no matter how strong, eventually meets its appointed hour. The Babylonian Empire that seemed eternal fell in a single night. The Roman Empire that ruled for centuries crumbled into dust. Kingdoms rose and kingdoms fell. Rulers took their seats in triumph, and those same rulers were cast down in humiliation. It is the story of every age that the pride of man cannot endure forever. September 06, 2025 is part of that story. It is the moment that reminds the world once more that no power of man is unshakable, no throne permanent, no crown everlasting. But if it is only about the fall of powers, it is not enough. For when one is removed, another rises. When one age ends, another begins. A prophetic turning point is not only about endings, but about beginnings. The removal of the false makes way for the revealing of truth. The collapse of the corrupt clears the ground for something new. And so what is coming is not only a shaking, but an unveiling. Hidden things are about to be revealed. Secrets long concealed will be shouted from rooftops. The illusions that men clung to will shatter. Those who exalted themselves will be humbled. Those who lived by deception will be exposed. The truth that was mocked will rise with power, and the lies that were embraced will be seen for what they are. The day does not come to flatter, but to reveal, and in the revealing there will be a choice to cling to the collapsing or to turn to the unshakable. Why must there be a turning point? Because the world cannot go on forever in the same course. Injustice piles up until it reaches heaven. Corruption multiplies until the cup is full. Arrogance grows until it can no longer be tolerated, and then comes the appointed time. A line is drawn, the scales are weighed, the moment arrives, and the change is set in motion. The prophets of old spoke of such times when nations were weighed in the balance and found wanting. They declared that the pride of kings would be brought low, and the plots of rulers overturned. They warned that what was done in secret would be proclaimed in the light. And though their voices have long since fallen silent, the pattern has not ceased. What was true then is true now. What was revealed in the past is a shadow of what is to come. September 06, 2025 is not about a single throne or a single man. It is about the principle that governs history. It is about the reality that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of men and gives them to whom he wills. And when the appointed hour comes, no power of man, no scheme of rulers, no force of armies can stop what has been decreed. This is why the day is urgent. It is not urgent because of fear, but because of the choice it demands. For when the hidden is revealed, neutrality is no longer possible. When the veil is lifted, each one must decide. The exposure of darkness leaves no middle ground. You will either stand in the truth or be swept away with the lie. You will either anchor yourself to what is eternal or fall with what is temporary. And yet most of the world will go on as though it is just another day. They will not hear the warning, they will not see the signs, they will be consumed with the noise of life, distracted by the temporary, blind to the eternal. But to those who hear, to those who see, the warning is a gift. The urgency is mercy. The alarm is sounded not to destroy, but to awaken. For what is revealed in the shaking is not only the collapse of the corrupt, but the chance to return to what is true. Even now, as the day approaches, the tremors are already being felt. The ground is quaking beneath institutions once thought immovable. The confidence in leaders is unraveling. The systems of men are faltering, and yet the fullness has not yet come. But it will, for the closer the day draws, the louder the tremors will grow. September 06, 2025, then, stands as both a warning and a promise. A warning that the powers of man cannot stand forever, that the hidden cannot remain hidden, that the corrupt cannot escape exposure. And a promise that truth will not remain buried, that justice will not sleep, that what is eternal will outlast what is fleeting. The prophetic turning point is near. The unveiling is at hand. And the world is about to be reminded once more of the one who holds kings in his hand, who lifts up and brings down, who reveals what is hidden and exposes what is concealed. For when the appointed hour comes, no throne can stand against it, no power can resist it, and no secret can remain in darkness. There comes a time when the sound of shaking fills the earth, when foundations tremble, when what seemed unmovable begins to quake. The world looks on in fear, nations stagger, and men's hearts grow faint. But the shaking is not without meaning. It is not aimless, nor is it cruel. Behind every trembling is a purpose. Behind every upheaval is a call. The shaking is not the end itself. It is the trumpet of awakening. It comes not to crush, but to awaken hearts to what is eternal. Most live as if the present world will go on forever. They live as if their possessions, their achievements, their empires will never fade. But everything built on sand must eventually collapse. The shaking comes to remind the world that the things of man are temporary, that kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall, that wealth passes away, that flesh withers like the grass of the field. It is a mercy when these things are shaken, for without the shaking many would never look beyond them. Without the trembling of the ground, the sleeper would never awaken from his slumber. The shaking is a voice. It is the voice that cries out in the wilderness of a distracted age. It speaks to those who have built their lives on illusions. It warns those who have trusted in the temporary. It says, "Awake, you who slumber. Awake, you who dream your days away in shadows. Awake, for the hour is late, and eternity stands before you. Men fear when their towers fall, when their systems collapse, when their world is shaken. But if there were no shaking, they would remain asleep. If there were no trembling, they would go on chasing after vanities until the final hour came upon them unprepared. The shaking is a severe mercy, a disruption that pulls away the veil and reveals what truly matters. For when the ground quakes beneath your feet, you are forced to ask where your foundation truly lies. There are those who will respond to the shaking with anger. They will curse the loss of what they held dear. They will cling all the harder to the crumbling pillars. They will despise the call and harden their hearts. And yet the shaking will not cease, for its purpose is not satisfied until the sleeper awakens. Others will hear the call and tremble, not with fear of loss, but with awe that they were spared, that the Eternal still calls, that the way is still open. When a house shakes in the wind, one discovers whether its foundation is secure. When the storm rages, the strength of the anchor is revealed. The shaking comes so that what cannot be shaken will be seen. That which is eternal stands firm when everything else collapses. That which is rooted in heaven does not crumble when the earth quakes. The awakening is not about despair. It is about seeing what truly endures. Look at history. Every age has known its shakings. The floodwaters covered the earth, but they awakened Noah to build an ark. Egypt was shaken with plagues, but it awakened a nation to leave bondage. Babylon fell in a single night, and it awakened the world to the truth that no empire is eternal. Rome crumbled, and it awakened the world to the one whose kingdom is without end. Always the shaking came, always the trembling resounded, and always the call was the same. Awaken from the temporal, turn to the eternal. So it is now, the world is being shaken again, powers are tottering, thrones tremble, economies falter, nations rage, the voices of certainty grow silent. Yet within it all is a greater voice, a deeper sound, the sound of awakening. It is not to bring fear, but to point the way beyond fear. Fear sees only what is collapsing. Awakening sees what remains. Fear clings to the crumbling. Awakening grasps the eternal. Fear laments what is lost. Awakening rejoices in what cannot be taken. The shaking is like the blast of a trumpet in the middle of the night. It startles the sleeper. It breaks the dream. It pierces through illusions. Dreams vanish when the alarm sounds, for they cannot endure the light of reality. So the illusions of this world vanish when the shaking comes. Men who trusted in their riches discover that riches cannot save them. Nations that gloried in their power discover that power cannot shield them. Those who lived only for pleasure discover that pleasure cannot sustain them. The shaking strips away the false so that the true can be seen. Why does the shaking feel terrifying? Because it touches the things we cling to. It removes what we thought secure. It forces us to confront what we did not want to face, that the world is passing away, that we ourselves are but dust, that our breath is not in our control. But beyond the terror is the gift, beyond the trembling is the mercy. For if we lose the temporary but find the eternal, we have lost nothing and gained everything. The awakening calls not only nations, but every soul. It whispers in the silence of the night. It shouts in the collapse of empires. It calls in the stillness after the storm. It asks, what are you building your life upon? What foundation holds you? When the world shakes, where will you stand? And to those who answer, to those who awaken, the shaking ceases to be their enemy and becomes their friend, for it has delivered them from the dream. The greatest tragedy is not the shaking of kingdoms, but the slumber of souls. To sleep through the warning, to ignore the trumpet, to harden one's heart against the mercy, that is the loss beyond all losses. For what good is it if a man preserves his possessions but loses his soul? What good if a nation holds its power but remains blind to eternity? The shaking cries out so that no one need perish in their illusions. The awakening is urgent because the time is short. The hour is later than it seems. Many hear the alarm but roll over to continue sleeping. Many see the signs but refuse to turn. They think there will always be more time, another chance, another day. But the alarm does not sound forever. The trumpet is not endless. The window of awakening has its appointed end. The mercy of the shaking is given now, but not forever. Therefore, the voice cries all the louder, awake, awake while there is still time. Awake while the way is open. Awake before the final shaking comes, the shaking from which there is no return. Awake, for the eternal is calling you. Awake, for the hand of mercy is still extended. Awake, for the hour is here. Every shaking brings with it a separation. The false is separated from the true, the passing from the eternal, the dream from reality. Those who awaken rise. Those who refuse sink. Those who let go of the collapsing find refuge in what endures. Those who cling to the dust are buried in it. The shaking does not decide, it reveals. It uncovers what is already within. It manifests the foundation that was hidden until the storm came. Do not mistake the purpose. The shaking is not the enemy. The collapse is not the end. The storm is not without meaning. All come to awaken you, to turn you from the fading shadows to the everlasting light. If you hear the shaking and fear only the loss, you miss the gift. If you hear the shaking and awaken to what is eternal, then you have gained the very reason it came. The world trembles now because it must. The shaking cannot be held back. It grows louder because the call grows more urgent. It is the alarm of heaven that says time is short, the trumpet that says eternity is near, the voice that says awaken while you still can. For what is at stake is not the rise and fall of thrones, not the fortunes of men, but the destiny of souls. And so the call goes forth over nations, over cities, over hearts, awake. The shaking is here, not to destroy you, but to awaken you. The trembling is here, not to end you, but to turn you. The collapse is here, not to bury you, but to lift your eyes beyond the dust. The hour is late, the day is near, the eternal is calling. Do not fear the shaking, let it awaken you. There is a time for silence, and there is a time for warning. There is a time for waiting, and there is a time for preparation. The days that lie ahead are not ordinary, and the hours that pass now are not to be wasted. The urgency is not of men, nor of politics, nor of economies, but of eternity. The urgency is not to prepare your barns or your bank accounts, but to prepare your heart. For when the shaking comes, when the storm arrives, when the veil is lifted, all that is not rooted in the eternal will fall away. Men prepare for many things. They prepare for battles, for elections, for markets, for storms. They stockpile goods. They secure fortresses. They build plans. Yet the greatest tragedy is to prepare for all things but the one thing that matters. What good is it if a man prepares for the rise and fall of empires, but not for the weight of eternity? What good is it if he secures his wealth, but leaves his soul unanchored? What good if he builds walls around his house, but no refuge around his spirit? The urgency now is not to place trust in the shifting tides of nations, nor in the power of rulers, nor in the systems of men. For all these will be shaken. Thrones will fall, economies will falter, governments will collapse. If your security lies in them, then your security will collapse with them. If your hope rests in them, your hope will fall when they fall. The preparation that matters is deeper, higher, greater. It is not of flesh, but of spirit, not of earth, but of heaven. The storm will not wait for you to prepare. The shaking will not delay until you are ready. When the hour strikes, it will come suddenly. The walls will fall in an instant, the towers will collapse in a moment, the ground will give way without warning. Therefore, the time to prepare is not tomorrow, it is not the day after, it is now, for tomorrow is not promised, and the moment will not ask your permission before it arrives. Preparation is not the storing of food, though food may fail. It is not the storing of wealth, though wealth will vanish. It is not the securing of power, for power will crumble. The true preparation is of the heart, the soul, the spirit. It is the anchoring of your life in that which cannot be moved when all else is moved. It is the rooting of yourself in what will endure when all else fades. It is the aligning of your days with eternity before eternity overtakes you. Think of the parable of the wise and foolish builders. Both built houses, both appeared secure, both seemed strong, but the storm revealed the truth. The house built on sand collapsed, the house built on rock endured. The difference was not visible before the storm, only when the winds raged and the floods rose. Preparation is not proven in times of calm, but in times of shaking. When the storm comes, the foundation will be revealed. So the urgency is now, before the storm breaks, to build upon the rock, to secure your foundation in that which cannot be shaken. What is the preparation of the heart? It is the turning away from that which is empty and embracing that which is eternal. It is letting go of idols, of vanities, of illusions, and clinging to what is true. It is the humbling of pride, the breaking of arrogance, the stripping away of pretense, the cleansing of hands, the awakening of the soul. It is the resolve to live not for the shadow, but for the substance, not for the passing, but for the everlasting, not for the approval of men, but for the gaze of eternity. The urgency is like the warning before the flood. Noah was told to build the ark, and he prepared while the world mocked him. They laughed at his labor, they scorned his warning, they ridiculed his urgency. But when the flood came, the laughter ceased. Those who mocked were swept away, and only those who prepared endured. So it will be again. The world will mock the urgency, will scoff at the warning, will dismiss the call. But when the shaking comes, when the storm breaks, when the unveiling begins, the mocking will cease, and only the prepared will endure. The urgency is like the warning before the Exodus. The people of Egypt lived in the pride of their power. But in one night their firstborn were struck down, their pride was shattered, their gods exposed. Only those who prepared, who marked their doors, who heeded the call, were spared. Preparation makes the difference between destruction and deliverance, between collapse and endurance. The urgency is like the warning before Babylon fell. The rulers feasted and drank from the sacred vessels, mocking heaven. They were unprepared for the hand that wrote upon the wall. In that same night their kingdom fell, their reign ended, their city taken. They had fortified their walls, they had stockpiled their provisions, they had trusted in their power. But they had not prepared their souls, and all was lost in a single night. The warning is now, the urgency is now. The shaking has already begun. The pillars tremble, the foundations quake, the storm gathers, yet still the mercy of preparation is offered. Still the time remains, though not for long. What you build now will be tested soon. What you plant now will be revealed in the day of unveiling. What you anchor now will decide whether you stand or fall. Do not mistake delay for safety. The delay is mercy, not permission. The patience of heaven waits for the sleeper to awaken, for the unprepared to prepare, for the wanderer to return. But patience is not endless. The moment will come when the window closes, when the time is no more, when the last call is given. Therefore the urgency is not less but greater. Men will say, "There is still time, I will prepare tomorrow." But tomorrow is a lie. Tomorrow belongs to no man. Tomorrow is the illusion that blinds the present. The only time given is now. The only hour that is certain is this one. If you wait for tomorrow, you may wait until it is too late. If you prepare only when the storm breaks, it will be too late to prepare. The time is now. Preparation is not measured by the abundance of possessions, but by the condition of the heart. Many who appear strong will collapse, for their foundation is sand. Many who appear weak will endure, for their foundation is rock. Preparation is not about appearance. It is about reality, not about what is seen by men, but what is seen in eternity. The urgency is personal. It is not enough that nations prepare, that governments plan, that leaders speak. If the nation prepares but the heart does not, the preparation is nothing. If the world secures its towers, but you remain unanchored, the towers will fall, and you with them. The call is not only to nations, but to souls. The warning is not only to rulers, but to every heart that beats. The urgency is yours. And what is the preparation of eternity? It is to walk in humility, to live in truth, to love in purity, to stand in faith, to endure in hope. It is to build your life on what cannot be shaken. It is to let go of the chains of pride, of greed, of lust, of lies, and to cling to what is higher. It is to set your eyes not on the fleeting shadows, but on the light that does not fade. The urgency is not to terrify, but to awaken. It is not to bind, but to free. It is not to crush, but to save. The shaking is not the enemy. The storm is not the destroyer. They are the alarm, the trumpet, the warning. They are the mercy that says, "Prepare now while there is time." Prepare now, before the hour strikes. Prepare now, for the eternal is at hand. So the call goes out as it has always gone out, from the days of Noah to the fall of Babylon, from the cries of prophets to the tremors of nations. Prepare. The urgency is now. The storm is near. The ground will shake. The veil will lift, and when it does, what you have prepared will be revealed. If you are anchored in what is eternal, you will endure. If you are rooted in what is unshakable, you will stand. If you are secured in what is true, you will not fall. But if not, then the storm will sweep all away. The urgency is mercy. The warning is love. The preparation is life. The time is now. The hour is late. The shaking has begun. The turning point is upon us. Thrones rise and fall. Powers shift. Nations tremble. But beyond it all, there is one who rules over the kingdoms of men. September 06, 2025 is not about a number on a calendar. It is about the revelation that everything built on sand will crumble, and only that which is eternal will endure. The trumpet is sounding not to drive you into fear, but to awaken you from slumber, to strip away illusions, to show you that the shadows of this world cannot hold you, and to call you back to what cannot be shaken. The urgency is not for another day, another hour, another season. It is for now. To awaken, to prepare, to anchor yourself in what is beyond the storm, beyond the shaking, beyond the collapse of empires. The call is personal. It is immediate. It is eternal. Do not waste the warning. Do not miss the mercy. Do not let the shaking pass without letting it awaken you. For when the dust clears and the thrones fall silent, when the illusions are shattered and the hidden is revealed, only one question will matter. What foundation did you build upon? The time is short, the choice is before you, and eternity waits. Therefore awaken, therefore prepare, therefore stand, while there is still time.